Hey everybody, welcome back to Geezer Rider. In this episode, we're going to talk about riding tips during a global pandemic. Let me start off by saying, we're going to make a little light of this. If you're not ready for that yet, if this is too sensitive a subject for you, save this video for another time or simply don't watch it. We understand, but there comes a point in time where, sometimes you just have to laugh at things a little bit. Given the date of this video when it's posted, you get an idea of what's going on in the world. It's serious business, but we're going to go ahead and push forward and have a little fun, but get some serious information out there to you as well. So, global pandemic riding tips. So, or as my wife likes to affectionately refer to it, the zombie apocalypse, and a little tongue-in-cheek there, and I'll explain why that's actually pretty appropriate in a little bit. So the first question that comes up is, should you ride? I think if you're able to, you can, and there's some considerations there. One is, can you ride? Are there restrictions in your state or municipality, or is there a federal order that says you can't go out unless you're essential personnel or on a specific errand or something like that? You may or may not have a state of emergency declared in your area, and sometimes those states have a already defined letter or number to them, so you know what's going on. But where we live, there's also some addendums right now, and they're changing almost weekly. So I would advise you, before you go out in any vehicle, to make sure that you know what the current situation is where you live. Right now, if you do go out, know that most people view motorcycling as a recreational activity, and they don't know that you're necessarily picking up groceries or what you're doing, or it's none of their business. You may just be out trying to clear your head, but there could be some animosity associated with that, and I'll get to that in a minute too, because that's part of the next section, which is the state of other drivers, and hence the zombie apocalypse, right? My wife is essential personnel, has to go into work, and she said, the people that are on the road, there's usually two things. They're essential personnel people, and they just look shell-shocked. They're usually working long hours. They're out. They don't want to be. They're forced into situations, or not forced into situations, but they're in a situation where they could potentially contract the virus or something like that. And then there's people out there just being irresponsible, or they've just had so much cabin fever, they said, forget it, I'm going out anyway. They're distracted. They're pissed off. They're jealous because you're out motorcycling or somebody else is off, whatever the issue is. And there's generally fewer vehicles on the road most places now because of the restrictions and the stay at home and everything like that. But those that are on the road, you should treat them like they've been driving 36 hours straight. Stay the heck away from them. Give them a room. Don't use a one-finger salute, or, give them the IQ of one. Just everybody has to give everybody else some space. And again, I would treat anybody else on the road, with the most defensive driving strategy that you can possibly muster to keep yourself safe. And that leads into something that I was going to get to in a minute, and that is motorcycling is an inherently dangerous proposition, on the best of days, and people see you out there and they think it's irresponsible or whatever. But part of their mindset is true if you're not taking, at least the most basic of precautions. If you've watched the other videos on this channel, you've gotten an idea of the general sense of the type of riding that we do ourselves and what we condone. Now is not the time for wheelies and exhibitionist speed and, finding out where your lean angle limits are and the tightest curve you can find. And the reason I say that is, if you wind up in a situation where you need medical attention, you're going to draw down against already strained resources. And that's just ridiculous. That's not a risk you should be taking. That's not, you're risking other people's health and livelihoods. And it's just completely unnecessary. If you're going to go out and ride, do it safe, do it responsibly. And that also leads into gear. Right now is the perfect time to wear all that gear, not necessarily just to stay safe. I mentioned the other drivers you have to be concerned about, but you're all covered up, right? Let's say you have a full face helmet with a full shield, you have gloves on, you have on a jacket and everything, you're covered head to toe. Even if somebody walked up to your red light and sneezed on you, you could at least get home and disinfect or something, you know. But keep in mind, if you have to stop somewhere and get gas, you better have some hand sanitizer or something with you after handling that pump. So, you know, keep everything in mind if you're going to go through a toll booth. You know, if it's contactless, you know, like Easy Pass, that kind of thing, maybe you're okay. If you have to handle change or touch something, pick up a ticket, that's something you need to keep in mind that is, you know, just an abnormal risk these days, something that you wouldn't think twice about any other time, you know, during a global pandemic is actually a real concern. The other thing I would like to say real quick is if you're going to go out, you know, you want to clear your head and everything, we all know riding is one of the best ways to do that. As long as you're not putting a strain on other resources. But now's a great time to promote motorcycling. If you watch the intro I did for this channel, it's really low rent. You know, the aspect ratio is wrong. Everything's wrong. And I leave it that way deliberately because I started off saying that, you know, we're going to focus on content rather than production values. And I leave that there to underscore that because I want people who are looking for the information, not just the glitz and glitter. And I talk on that intro about promoting my motorcycling, what I like to do to see the activity continue and keep public awareness up. So they're thinking about us and they're looking for us, you know, as much as possible. You know, obviously right now when everybody's so distracted, I shouldn't have just touched my eye. Right now when everybody's so distracted, it's kind of hard to expect that, you know, they're going to be thinking of bikes all the time, but we want to get that way. And one of the things we can do is if you do decide to go out, make it count. Go online, look around. There's a lot of initiatives right now. There's people making, you know, homemade masks or face shields or PPE, personal protective equipment, and they need a way to get it to the hospitals and such where it's going. Volunteer, you know, volunteer to transport that stuff if you can. Maybe you can find out, you know, a lot of social services have been affected. There's a lot of shut-ins and stuff. Maybe you can contact the local Meals on Wheels and find out if they're low on drivers. Yeah, you're on a bike. There's only so much you can carry, and depending on what kind of bike you have, you know, you might be carrying stuff in a backpack. But to the person that's sitting there with nothing, that could be a really big deal. And that's the kind of public relations stuff where even if you don't make it to the 5 o'clock news, you know, on the feel-good piece, they're going to talk to somebody and say, hey, this guy on a bike came over, you know, a motorcycle pulled up and dropped off my food or brought me, you know, my prescription from the drugstore or, you know, brought a package of diapers for my kid, whatever it might be. You know, now's the time to get out there and prove who we as a group are. So much of the rest of the news is covering the negative aspects of motorcycling. You know, they go with it bleeds, it leads, and they go with the most negative amongst us to profile normally when it comes to bikes. You get, you know, a couple times a year when you have a Toys for Tots run, you know, a toy drive to a hospital, something like that. But the rest of the time, it's generally fairly negative coverage out there in the world. So, you know, if you're going to go out and ride and you're doing to clear your head and everything, and you have the opportunity to make a difference, please do so. Please see if you can find a way to involve your riding in such a way that it benefits the community. And that is something that you can be looking to do at other times, but especially right now. I hope this gave you a little bit of a break, you know, thinking about riding, and, you know, just a little break from all the seriousness that's going on. And put riding under these conditions in a little bit of perspective, and maybe we brought up something that you hadn't really thought about yet. Ride safe. Namaste.